Stakeholder.
In gambling, an independent party with whom each of those who make a wager deposits the money or counters wager.
A person with an interest or concern in something, especially a business.
In emergency management, any person or entity with a vested interest in the survival and recovery of a given community. You.
Welcome to Stakeholder Prepping.
Welcome back to Stakeholder Prepping, where you are the stakeholder in your own survival. We are your hosts. My name is Chris.
And I'm AC.
And today we have an incredible topic, but more importantly, we have our first field expert guest. You heard right.
That's awesome.
We're going to be tackling the topics that you've always been curious about with actual resources and instead of just reading from the wiki pages.
Yeah, that's right. We're actually doing honest to God research here, which is crazy to me. But no, we're doing the real legwork. So, we're trying to find the difficult answers and boil it down into actual actionable intelligence, like we always talk about. And speaking of actionable intelligence, something you can use in your own survival. If you didn't hear last episode, we secured our listeners a discount with Contingency Medical. So if you go to contingencymedical.com, but the interwebs will sort that out for you. But you can enter our discount code there, stakeholder10, stakeholder 10, all one word, and get $10 off anything from Contingency Medical. And like I said before, Chris, we don't make anything off that. This is just, they were nice enough to do something very cool for us. And we're going to help them kind of promote that. I will probably use this myself because we're not getting anything for free here.
Same here. We aren't getting any sort of commission off of this. This is solely something that we did for you, the listeners, and everything sold on their site comes from a licensed physician and from a licensed pharmacy in those convenient, easy to use packs. So you're getting high quality meds, and it is an affordable price. The $10 off just helps you make your own money work harder for you and get ahead of your preps. So yeah, use Stakeholder 10 at checkout for $10 off of any order.
Yeah, and like you said, this is reputable stuff. We're not pushing fish penicillin and shit. But so now on to the man of the hour. This is actually really cool because I think this is something that all of us sort of have this fantasy about, is like being out in the bush and actually living it in like a grid down situation with no support and no meds from Contingency Medical because we're pretending like it's the 1800s. But anyway, so this guy lives it and teaches it. So welcome, Andrew.
Hey guys, thank you so much for having me on. I'm just pleasure to be here.
It's fantastic, and it's good to see you again, buddy. We've known each other for a long time. Now, we have a bunch of questions for you because you actually have experience in teaching children and adults about living without power, living without running water, things like that. How far on or off target am I with that one?
No, man, yeah, absolutely hit the nail right in the head. When I go out and do these events, I try my best for period correct living. Be based on the Western Prairie, late 1800s. I'm part of living history events, teaching demos, historical reenactments. We try to keep everything correct for the time period for the event we are doing. Most of the events we do are multiple days, so it gives us an opportunity to take a step back and live how they would have lived over 120 years ago. Really, these guys were the first true preppers.
That's awesome, and it's so funny because when Chris started telling me about this, I was like, it sounds like you just have a homeless friend. But now I get it, that you actually you're going out and you're truly living like you did 120 years ago. And obviously, hey, we are all about anonymity here because Chris and I are both like bumping into previous security clearances. So you can tell us as much or as little about yourself. If you want people to be able to find you, able to find your group, find out what you do, we're totally cool with you telling us everything about it. If you want some level of anonymity here, that's cool too. But anyway, so I guess without giving away anything more than you want to, where do you do this stuff roughly? Where are you located?
Yeah, so right now most of my events are Western Nebraska, Western South Dakota, Eastern Wyoming, Front Range of Colorado. But really, I go wherever there's a need for people like me. Travel to all over the states, across the Midwest, and I'm actually lucky enough to live out in western Nebraska, very close to the original route of the Oregon Trail. And some of the major landmarks that the travelers passed by before they got to the Rocky Mountains. Area is really known for a lot of post-Civil War military skirmishes, Native American history. Without getting too specific, throw a couple names out there: Wild Bill Hickok, Sam Bass, Chief Crazy Horse, Chief Red Cloud, Doc Middleton. So you got some of the notorious figures that have traveled the area. So it's kind of easy to narrow it down where I'm at.
So where we've got this stuff when you mentioned the Oregon Trail, like I've been to like Fort Vancouver and Fort Clatsop, where like you've got the actors and they dress up in funny clothes and they speak in a funny voice and they tell you about trading raccoon pelts for shit. But I think those people all go home at night, right? So how is this different? Like, what are you doing actually?
No, I am the weird guy out there dressed in funny clothes, talking about stuff that people don't know about. Yeah. I mean, it's most of these people are coming out, and all of their information on cowboys is what they're seeing from mainstream media, movies, and the stuff they see on TV. Gunsmoke, and it's just stuff like that where they have glamorized it so much and romanticized living in the Old West, that I want to show them how the day-to-day activities and the day-to-day life was back in that era.
So less Tombstone and more Million Ways to Die in the West without the ridiculousness.
Amen to that, and there is still some ridiculousness.
There's always ridiculousness.
Like, so how? I imagine this isn't just you. So is this a bunch of people? Do you do this with a big group of guys, or how's this work?
Yeah, so I actually got started 15 years ago or so out of Omaha, and that started with a bunch of retired guys who really just never grew up, wanted to keep playing cowboy, and jumped on to the actually doing Tombstone reenactments, full on characters, props, and then full on shootouts towards the end of it. So currently, it's really just kind of whoever shows up to the events. The last event we did there's 3 of us. The big rendezvous in September, 18 to 20 or so people up there. But yeah, like I say, it's, yes, we do have our normal lives where we don't wear normal clothes. So a lot of this is just based on when you can get off work, when you can get away, travel time, location, that kind of stuff. So, really anywhere from 1 or 2 people out there to groups of 50 at the big events.
And when you're like totally off grid, how long will you do this for? What's the longest amount of time you will do this for and not break character? Like no modern toilet paper.
Well, I don't know how much I want to admit of me cheating on historical accuracy, but so like if I'm out there to do a teaching event or something like that, I'm trying my best. I'm shooting for 95, 98% accuracy on this. I've really been spoiled with, air conditioning and all the other modern amenities, but I'm trying to live how they would. It's actually funny you bring up the toilet paper side of it, based off the sanitation episode you guys did. Yeah, that comes with me.
It's probably the best plan.
But is this a 2-day thing, an overnight thing, a 3-day thing? I mean, how long? What's the longest you guys have done kind of not broken character for?
So the rendezvous event in September was 5 full days. We got in Wednesday and left Sunday.
So you're out there in the bush without modern heat, modern AC, and these reenactments, these are kind of the ones that, like, if I'm thinking of it correctly, children will get on the school bus, go out for an hour, drive into Fort wherever, learn for the day, and then they come back. So you're actually teaching kids these critical survival skills, and any of the adults that happen to be chaperoning, along with, you've got these specialty events that are kind of ongoing. Am I correct in that?
No, yeah, exactly. And again, it just depends on who wants to foot the bill for having us come out there. Most of it is, it's teaching kids about Western Nebraska, Western South Dakota, where they're from, how things were done.
Yeah, you couldn't just run down to Costco and grab a steak. You actually had to put some effort into raising the cattle or talking the town butcher into giving you that prime cut.
Yeah, exactly. So it's, when I go out, I'm taking everything I need for however long I'm going to be out there. And it's you really have no idea. It's if you're scheduled for an event for 3 days, you usually add a day on ahead of time to get there, get set up, and then usually a day afterwards, you just to tear down, make sure you got everything. And so, when I'm leaving my house, present day, and I'm going back 130 years, I have to have every single thing I need for that stretch of time.
And no modern tech then, right? Besides maybe the toilet paper, if we're really telling the truth, but no modern technology then, right?
Correct. Yes. So everything I've got, clothing, supplies, shelter, weapons, tools, all of it. I'm. It's a building thing where you don't just buy everything one day and then you have your whole set. It's you accumulate stuff, you trade for stuff over time. So I'm even getting into the small stuff like plates and silverware. I'm not cooking any food that was not available. I'm not cooking in ways that weren't available. So I'm doing everything over an open fire with stuff that was readily available and prepared and stored and preserved correctly as it was, that era.
So are you like the cook in this, or does everybody kind of take on their own particular skill set, like commune style? Do you have one thing you focus on?
Yeah, well, and again, it comes down to different events. If I'm out there solo or one or two people, I am there by myself, fending for myself. The bigger events, we usually do have a cook wagon or a chuck wagon come out. But really, for the most part, it's everybody shows up, is mostly taking care of themselves. Share some supplies, share some food. Come over to my campsite, eat a meal. I go over there the next day, eat a meal. But it's when I'm out there, I'm prepared to be by myself.
And what kind of skills do you specifically I'm kind of imagining in my head that you have like this set character, almost like a long-term role-playing game. Do you have specific skills that you focus on versus some of the others in your group?
So I'm actually going to be Western Frontier circa 1870, 1880 or so. Really what I'm trying to get out there and teach these kids and adults is what it would have been like living and working as a frontiersman or a fur trader. Giving lessons, tools of the trade, what a typical day would be like, just, sun up to sundown.
So when you say 1780 to or 1770, 1780 or whatever, was there something particular in 1869 versus 1881 or something? Was it like within those 10 years or whatever you're talking about? Was it what's the tech you aren't playing with?
So a lot of just based on the area I'm in, most of it, like the big events and the big push for people happened post Civil War. So that would have been 1865.
Okay.
Give them a couple years to get out into Nebraska territories, Wyoming territories, and the forts getting established, the trading posts getting established. So I'm basing mine off what it would have been. Not necessarily Western, the first Western expansion with Oregon Trail, but when people were coming out and homesteading and actually cutting out a piece of ground for themselves. And a lot of it too is based off the technology that I feel comfortable using. There's a lot of guys that are out there 1840s, 1850s. They're using flintlock muskets and making their own clothes out of buckskin. And while that's neat and it's great for them, I can't make my own pants.
You can probably fix them though.
So you mentioned like the firearms. So yeah, I guess that post Civil War there were some advancements in the firearms. What do you so you're still using your post Civil War, your 1880s type firearms too?
Yeah, correct. My primary carry is going to be an 1851 Sharps. They did bring that back in after the Civil War and barrel it for the centerfire cartridge. I'm carrying an 1851 Colt Navy and an 54, 50, anyway, it's a later model Colt Navy, but it's the stuff you see guys coming off the Civil War and, like you say, Tombstone, when you look at the firearms and knives and weapons and stuff I'm carrying, they're straight out of the movie.
Very cool. So this is like cap and ball revolvers and 45 120 long rifle rounds and things like that.
Yeah, so I do bring the cap and ball. It takes forever to load. It's a lot of fun to shoot, but it takes forever to load. It's really one of those things that I know had I been fighting the Civil War with cap and ball, I'd be dead day one.
So what other kind of challenges have you really encountered in your reenactments? I mean, obviously this is going out kind of on your own, or with a small group with limited resources and technology. What are some of the challenges that you've really had to overcome?
The stuff that jumps out to me is the stuff that I've forgotten from my own personal campsite. I've run out. I've had this grand plan in my head that I'm going to do this, and I get out there and I realize I've forgotten, miscellaneous stuff. I went to one event and I forgot suspenders. So I spent half a day with my hand in my pocket trying to hold my trousers up, and I went to the neighbors and was able to barter. But I've run into places where day 2, day 3, I've opened my pack and found spoiled food. So there goes a day's ration that I have to just throw away. Weather is always a big thing out here. Everything I'm cooking is going to be over an open fire. But you get dry grass and heavy winds, you obviously don't want to light a fire and burn down the countryside. So, there's a lot of days where it's cold camp and it's leftover food and it's hard biscuits and, so it's you're not spoiled all the time like you want to be. You can't always go out and cook a steak over an open fire.
I gotcha. Now, I have seen, we are friends on Facebook, and I have seen that you have some pretty phenomenal Dutch oven recipes. Do you have a favorite out of all of those?
Honestly, I don't have names for anything. It's honestly whatever I pack with me and decide at the time that I feel motivated to cook. But honestly, the one that I usually go to, I'll take my cast iron skillet, get it good and hot, cook down a couple pieces of bacon, throw a stick of butter in there, or actually lard. The last 4 or 5 times I've gone out, cook down potatoes and onions. Get that cooked off really crispy, throw a steak over top of it. So you got steak, potatoes, and onions.
Loving it.
It doesn't sound that bad, honestly. I mean, I don't know. So, I mean, yes, I guess, we talked about, so it's no modern tech at all, but do you feel like in a grid down situation, if you were out in the bush by yourself, do you feel better prepared because of what you're doing?
Oh yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. It's something like this does happen. I'm 100% confident because going out to like this kind of stuff, you have a general idea of what the day or what the event's going to bring, but you really can't pencil it out or jot it down, 15-minute increments at a time. So you really have to be able to adapt to where you're at, campsites, what's available there for neighbors, for am I going to be able to go out and get easily available firewood? Do I need to go out and actually take a tree down and process my own firewood? It's a lot of the stuff where you really have to stay on your toes, even at a planned sponsored event. And kind of go through that, taking that back to the modern day off grid. It's a lot of that too. Is you have to look at the area you're in. Is there natural resources available? Is there water available? Where are you going to be camped? Is the sun beating down on you? It's a lot of that stuff too. Is I show up to a location, I say, okay, there's shade, there's water, there's firewood. I'm going to camp in that area.
So, are you guys doing any? Do you actually ever take any wild game? Are you guys doing any hunting or any trapping or any snares or any of that kind of stuff?
Yeah. So, a lot of what we do is on national parks or state park ground. So it's, I guess, on record, it's frowned upon. But there's been some rabbits or some turkeys or something that has, have been harvested fresh. In a true situation like this, when I do go out, I try to take everything fresh. Just, it's nice to have fresh red meat versus something that's salt cured or preserved or dried.
you guys said, so you said that you are doing like some of the like the mock shootouts and things like that. So just from a safety aspect, how are you avoiding like the Alec Baldwin type sitch?
That's a good
Um,
question. I like that one.
yes, yeah, no, yeah, it's a great question. So when I got hooked up with that first reenactment group out of Omaha, we actually had to go through insurance training, so we could be covered in the event of an accident. So we go into this obviously with unloaded firearms, and if the event does arise where we need to do a stage shootout or shooting blanks, you'll prepare your own weapons and your own ammunition, but then you always have whoever else is in the event with you double check that, make sure you have no live rounds. There's not any obstruction. It's basic gun safety, but having a second person look at it to confirm that yes, these are true, prepared stage blanks, and you're not running into live rounds. So me personally, I have two separate containers where I store live ammo versus the stage ammo.
Oh, got it. All right. So, but you guys are, I mean, you're using real firearms. You're just loading them with blanks and things like that when you're shooting at each other.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. So like the Winchester rifle I carry, I've taken handful, half dozen of deer with it. I'll unload it, clean it, take it up to the event, and run a bunch of blanks through it.
Wow, that's awesome. That's amazing.
I'm sure that even with all of the safety precautions, there's been one or two injuries, whether it's somebody not paying attention to the knife or tripping on something or whatever. Are you using period authentic medical treatments? Are you putting leeches on people, or is it all modern medical?
If something is life-threatening or severe, yes, we'll reach out. The small knife injuries, when you're cutting food or you're cutting a piece of rope and you nick yourself, it's leaves and dirt you rub on it and just hope it quits bleeding eventually. There's always extra canvas or some form of stitched cotton that you can wrap around it and usually tie it off. We don't completely remove ourselves, so if something bad does happen, we still are available to reach out via the wireless telegraph that people carry with them and reach out for help.
So it's funny. I guess I never even thought about this, that I kind of thought that the first aid kit was something invented by a couple of generations before us. But so was there an 1880s first aid kit? Was that a thing?
Yes and no. A lot of it was wives' tales and stuff that they picked up as they needed it. When I go out with my wife, she actually does the frontier medical woman side of things, where she touches on the different elixirs. And I mean, let's be honest, most of that stuff is just straight up morphine and opium. So that's your pain relief. But then she does touch on there's some roots and there's some herbs and stuff that you can grind up to make a tea, or mix with water, make a paste. And I leave that stuff up to her because I don't remember what names and what can kill me and what isn't going to kill me. So, but yeah, I mean, they always had some form of bandage wrap, to stop the bleeding. They're really good at making tourniquets and stuff like that. Usually it is a piece of leather strap or some sinew or something that they'd wrap around their leg or their arm, tie it off as tight as they can, and hope gangrene doesn't set in.
Brutal. Oh, just
Well, and like you said, and you guys have touched on the first aid and the safety side of it. If you really look back on it, the Civil War was really the start of what we would consider modern day first aid care.
Right. Yeah. Where it wasn't just, cut it off. It looks bad. You should cut that off now.
Well, and it's like reference million ways to die in the West. It's it's a little more current than a donkey kicking or a blue jay pecking.
See, Andrew can pick up the movie references.
Yeah,
This
that's
is
great.
spot
It's
on.
good
I
to
love
have
it.
somebody else do it. That's great. So when you're talking about a serious question about like the sanitation side, because you're talking about, so if you've got 5 days and 20 dudes, that's more than just like the digging the cat hole and dropping a deuce. So where do you guys set up a latrine, or do you actually where do you do the 100 poops?
Well, it's that's
I'm
the nice
just
part
doing
about prairie
that's
is
just rough poop math there. I'm just guessing, but
yeah, and I mean without taking my boots off and counting on my toes, it's
Yeah.
probably pretty close. But yeah, that's the nice part about the prairie is wherever the heck you want. Like I said, a good majority of our stuff is the state parks, the federal parks, the historical places. So they do have those really fancy plastic outhouses where we can go.
Got it.
The stuff that is more removed, honestly, it's you go out with a small shovel and you dig a hole and hope for the best.
That's just what it is. All right, and then you're just hoping you
Yes.
don't dig a hole where somebody else just dug a
Yeah,
hole.
it's usually one of those things where if you got other people there, you kind of have that awkward conversation, be like, "Hey, so which tree is which way are we going?"
So are you guys bringing? When you do these type of things, are there animals? Are there dogs and horses and things like that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like I say, it just depends on who can show up. We've had a couple events where we have honest to God dedicated oxen pulling a covered wagon.
That's
there's
cool.
teams there's teams of mules that have showed up.
Oh my gosh.
Pulling the old buckboards. There's the big pack horses and stuff showing how they actually run a single bottom plow and plow fields. Yeah, everybody seems to have some type of dog that just kind of trails around them at camp, and
Oh wow.
there's we've done some at sunset. The turkeys walk through, and it's just honestly how it would be back then.
And do you guys would you establish camp in such a way do you set up like a security perimeter? Is that something they would do, and do you reenact that kind of thing?
We don't really have the numbers to do something like that. A lot of that stuff is Oregon Trail side where they would circle the wagons and
Yeah.
have everybody camped on the inside. Most everything we're doing is there is some sort of general center open area where if we are teaching, all the kids can come in, set up and just kind of be in the center, and we'll be working around that. But really, most of it comes down to where we are setting up camp. There's usually some type of natural border, be it a creek, river, lake, heavy tree line, steep bluffs. It's positioning yourself where you're generally looking one direction and you not have to worry about what's behind you.
Got it. So like a defensible like one
Correct,
direction,
yes.
and that's kind of. So just for my Oregon Trail video game edification here, did they actually cock the wheels and float across? Is that a thing?
Absolutely, yes. A lot of that was whatever they had laying around. I mean, if they had a good river with a lot of really good heavy clay mud, they would pack the mud in there with pieces of cloth or leather or hides or whatever they had to seal that wagon up and turn it into something that roughly resembles a boat or a canoe, or really something that'll float and hopefully keep everything you have from floating down the river.
That's awesome. And just for reference, I do have a Oregon Trail
Oh, look at that! You've got the Oregon. Does that
patch
say?
on my hat.
Does that
there.
patch say you have died of dysentery?
Yes, it does.
That's so
Old school
amazing.
green screen.
Well, I didn't know I needed to put it on, but yes, I have a shirt that is pixelated like that. Said you have died of dysentery.
So, what skills do you feel that like you've picked up doing this that are really kind of translatable into the modern world or modern grid down situations?
Yeah, no, it's honestly it boils down to basic survival. It's need to find or build some type of shelter, keep you out of the elements, protect you a little bit. And something sturdy that's going to hold up against whatever Mother Nature throws at you too. You want to pack out food that has a long shelf life, be it the preserved meals, the MREs, the stuff that they're selling that's, I don't know how they prepare it, but the long shelf life stuff. Or in my case, it's it's the salt pork, it's the dried beef, it's things that have dry goods that have a long shelf life. Honestly, the biggest thing, and I really can't stress this enough, speaking of dysentery and cholera and all the other wonderful stuff, is water, and good water. You don't think it's all that important, bottled water here, bottled water there, but if you don't have a way to get good fresh water, I mean, I don't know the stats, but you're done in a couple of days.
So are you guys taking the chance of saying, hey, here's swift running fresh water and I'm going to drink it right out of the creek? Or are you guys boiling everything? I mean, what's your take on that?
Yeah. So if we are able to actually go through and build a fire to boil water, we will try to boil up enough water and store it. A lot of people do have the 15 to 20 gallon wooden barrels that they do store water in, and it's good for a couple days. Yeah, it gets a little woody and then a little grainy after the third or fourth day, but it is true boiled water. It gets all the impurities and stuff out of it. But then again, you do run the risk of, if you're not able to build a fire or keep a fire going long enough to boil water, you're kind of in a world of hurt, and you do have to risk drinking out of that maybe slow flowing stream or whatever pond you hope is clean enough. But honestly, it's huge, because you get out and you don't realize how much activity you do that you're sweating. The wind is taking that out of your skin. Just your respirations are dehydrating you, and you're so focused on shelter and food and survival and fending off the tribe of Native Americans that's coming over the hill to scalp you. But you need to remember that there is still the need for water.
Yeah.
So have you ever been in that position where you've had dysentery, or obviously not cholera or typhoid or anything super life-threatening, but have you ever been in one of those bad water situations where you've kind of paid the price for it?
The shit shivers and the yellow pea?
Ooh, that sounds fun. No, like I said, we are trying to be correct, but if it comes down to anything where it's going to put somebody in any kind of harm, we really avoid it. We always have those resources to reach out and say, hey, we didn't plan this happened. Can you bring down a case of water?
Makes sense. That makes sense.
So in our last episode, now I don't know if you've listened to any of our stuff, but on our last episode, we talked about some of the old school pre-DeWalt drill tools, and I'm a big fan of a lot of old school hand tools. Probably not the 1880s vintage of hand tool, but like the good solid crosscut saw you can use for almost anything. But what are some of the tools from the 1800s that you would not trade for the modern equivalent?
I'm kind of a gun guy, and every time I go out hunting, modern day or period correct, I'm carrying period correct weaponry. I find it there's less moving parts. They're to me, they're built better. They're built to last. Last time I went deer hunting, I took out a rifle that was 113 years old and took a deer and felt comfortable with it.
And so when you say period correct, I'm sorry, do you mean, because I am dumb at this, do you mean like a cartridge gun, like a 45 long Colt type, like lever action, or you mean like something that you are like a buck and ball, or you're actually like reloading the cartridge yourself, or it's cap and ball type stuff?
Yeah, it honestly depends on what I feel like that day. I have taken the modern day version of the black powder. I've taken the old school black powder where you are sitting there, putting a wad around a ball and jamming it down the barrel. My go-to is an 1894 Winchester.
And that's a lever action cartridge gun?
Correct, chambered in 30 WCF.
Okay, and are you really sad they didn't make it in 30 carbine?
Apparently I'm supposed to say yes.
Yes.
That's cheating. That's cheating.
And just for the record, I am nowhere close to these guys. Nobody's pressuring me to say this. I just have listened. I just know what to say.
All right.
So are there more like 1800s tools that you would suggest having as part of kind of I don't want to say a complete bug out kit, but a bug out location, something where you've got it cached? Like what could you have in a cache and go dig it up and set up camp?
Yeah. Honestly, I'm a big fan of the old school flint and steel strikers. They work if they're wet, they work if they're cold. I honestly, modern day, I have trouble with lighters. They're just making them so cheap anymore, and it seems like when you need one, they're either not working or they're out of gas or whatever it is. But
Stupid
if you've got
childproofing.
Exactly, and you don't always have time to peel that little thinger off. But Yeah, it's just go out in your driveway with some dried leaves or dried sticks, and try to build a fire with an actual striker and flint. Um, and the other thing I will say is good pouches and backpacks and satchels. Um, I'm a huge fan of really good quality leather, just because I can fix it. I've looking at my stuff here. I've got a bunch of modern stuff, the nice backpacks, but I don't know how to fix a zipper if it breaks, that kind of stuff. But if I do have a nice carrying pouch that's made out of leather with a leather strap over top of it, and that strap breaks, I do have that owl and the sinew to go through and actually repair that strap or repair a flap or a hole in the bottom of it by myself without just trying to duct tape something on the bottom of a backpack.
So do you have a leather guy, or do it yourself? Do you have someone that actually makes pouches and things?
Yeah, for the big stuff, and the really nice fancy stuff, really good set of chaps is nice to have. I do a lot of trading and bartering for those. The small stuff, knife sheaths, small repairs. Yeah, I can do that stuff. I'm starting to broaden out, looking to make my own, own moccasins or, just miscellaneous stuff here and there. That's the skill set's really not too high, so I can sit and entertain myself when I'm at camp at night.
So what about the boots? This is the biggest thing. I'm big on footwear, and I've spent a lot of money on very good leather boots, and they're just not for me. But I mean, where do you so are you buying period correct boots? Do you have somewhere you buy actual honest to God cowboy boots from, or what?
Yeah. So there's just countless companies online that do make movie quality period correct clothing. All the way down to your boots. And you were exactly right. There's nothing better than a good pair of boots. Um, the nice part about that period correct stuff is they're still making it how they would have made it, way back in the day, because it needs to have that longevity and the comfort. Because these guys are walking 18, 20 miles a day, and they have to have one pair of boots, and they have to last, they have to be comfortable, so your feet aren't falling apart. And I will say I've made the mistake. I'm like, hey, it's a 2-day event. I'm going to break in new boots. Terrible idea. But yes, footwear, huge.
I have been in that position. I know exactly what you're talking about. So out of all of the skills that you kind of procured and practiced and really taught to everywhere from like kindergarten to high school and adults, out of all of those skills, what do you think is kind of your strongest or your weakest, or what you could practice more?
Yeah, I mean, I never like to brag because I'm never a professional in anything, but I'm a pretty dang good hunter. I was lucky enough, my father-in-law was a professional guide for 30, 35 years of his life. And that's what he did to make money, was go out and guide hunts and track animals. And then once that animal is harvested, go through and cape it out, quarter it out, field dress it, bring it back to camp, prepare it, preserve it, and cook it. And I've been fortunate enough to work with him for a lot of years, and he's taught me a lot of different skills. It's been very beneficial knowing that I can go out in a situation and feel comfortable enough to harvest my own meal.
I like that. I like that one a lot.
Yeah,
I guess the other side there on things needing more work is pretty much everything else.
everything besides the hunting. So where you guys are on the prairie then there, so what is the typical game? Is it the deer? Is that kind of the typical thing you're going to take? You don't have much wild buffalo to take anymore. So,
and that's unfortunate because, every time I have a group of kids walk up, I say, hey, where are you guys from? How's the hunting? Do you have buffalo? And I keep getting told no.
So do you have an actual character that you continually go back to every time?
Yeah, so I have actually picked up I don't know if you character, outlaw, cowboy. His name is Jack Davis, and he rode with Sam Bass in the Deadwood area. He was on some of the train robberies and the stagecoach robberies in the Deadwood area, Black Hills area, Wyoming, and then he actually got down into Nebraska and was with Sam Bass for the Big Springs Union Pacific train robbery, which for a very long time was the most expensive train robbery in UP's history. And, that's just right down in the little town of Big Springs, Nebraska. So kind of gravitated towards that character because the research I've done is he's an outlaw. Yes, he's a vigilante, but he's still kind of a good guy, way deep down. So I just kind of always going back to, just going to be the Jack Davis guy. And it's a good persona because he did a little bit of this, that, and everything else. So it doesn't, kind of niche me into one little, I have to be Marshall Dillon.
Yeah, I noticed you said he was in on these. He didn't commit any robberies. He was there. He was in the back somewhere. He wasn't,
Yeah, he didn't have a name or a posse named after him, and he wasn't on the Pinkerton Detective Agency's most wanted list. He was just he was there. He did some stuff, kind of famous,
but he's got that freaky little pirate flag flying high in his camp.
Oh, absolutely. He was just tied into some very questionable people.
So then always period correct. You're in the character of this guy, kind of the rogue guy, and then hunting is more of your thing. And then I guess I want to know, when you're in a group of, if it's the 10 or the 20 people or whatever, does it become very sort of commune like? Is it like, okay, I'll do the hunter guy if you can be the cook and you can be the this and you can rig the saddles and that kind of stuff? Does everybody kind of pick up their role pretty quickly?
Yeah, exactly. Everybody's kind of a jack of all trades, master of none when it comes to these situations and encampments and get-togethers. And we just do what needs to be done. There are a few people that have specialized in one area. There's honestly got tinsmiths who are still making cups and lanterns and whatever else needed to be made out of tin over an open fire and a forge and an anvil. Obviously blacksmiths are hugely important. And the guys that are still practicing that original craft pretty much just do the blacksmithing side of things. Everybody's has some skill in, tying knots or working with twine or something to do with hides or leather or, like I said, it's just kind of a jack of all trades type deal where we get there, we all sit down, figure out, you're going to talk about this, you're going to talk about this, you're going to talk about this. Let go.
So this might be a bit of a curveball question, but for people listening that have never done anything like this and never gone out in the bush and pretended that they're in the 1890s or something, is there one particular skill or something you would encourage people to try to do or start or learn how to do? What's the easiest, simplest thing that would actually be beneficial to someone?
So are you talking to get into recreation or just the living by yourself out in the middle of nowhere?
I meant the living by yourself in the middle of nowhere, or having a skill that's timeless.
Really, I'd say just kind of how I started is go out and spend an afternoon, and just go to a state park or a preserve or a nature area and just go walk around and just kind of get a feel for the big picture of, okay, I've got water, I've got shelter, I've got this, that, whatever it may be. Come home and just kind of sit and, think on it, ponder it. Next time you go out, maybe spend a half a day out there and bring a meal with you. So you actually have to sit down and some form of prepare a meal by yourself, without the help of a microwave or an oven or a stove or something. If you can do that pretty well, just pat yourself in the back, go home, and maybe the next day you spend 12 hours out there and you make 2 meals and you have to build a fire for one of them. It's baby steps, just getting out there. And I really can't point you in a direction of, you have to master this skill and this skill and this skill and this skill in order. Just go out away from technology and away from the hustle and bustle of everything and just figure out what works best for you to make it. If you're out there for 4 hours or 40 hours or 40 days, you just need to figure out what in your situation at that day and time you need to do and work on. And it's like me, there's stuff I'm still learning and practicing. And when I do come back to the 21st century, it's YouTube, it's online forums, it's listening to podcasts, and talking to guys, with similar interest, and just, sharing stories and sharing information, and being part of that, whole community of people who want to be more self-sufficient.
So it sounds like this really has been scalable for you, and I do like that, because Chris and I, we touch on that all the time, is the scalability. I liked what you said just about using the leather awl and doing repairs on your own. I've never done anything like that. I think I do have some leather awls for one reason or another. I've never actually tried to use them, but I realize that this is sort of bushcrafty or bushcraft adjacent. And
Yeah.
that's one skill I really wish I had. I do not. So, that's something that I really wish I could get more into, is actually like the bushcrafty side of the preparedness, equation.
And
And again, touching on that, like you mentioned here a while back, is you might not have every skill that you need, but if you can get hooked up with, a good group of people, again, touching on the commune side of things, if you get one person that's really good at hunting and leather work, and then you get somebody else who's really, really good at preparing food or foraging for herbs or whatever, just say, hey, if shit hits fan, what's your plan? You want to hook up? You want to help each other out? Just make friends.
that makes sense. So I grew up in Nebraska. I went camping out in western Nebraska, where you're at, quite a bit when I was a kid. And some of the, I guess, the most imprinted memories are severe weather events when I was out in a tent. So how do you guys deal with the weather out in western Nebraska, South Dakota? It just changes on a dime. How do you deal with weather events out on the prairie?
Drink heavily.
At least he's honest, right?
That's right.
It's it's a Toby Keith song. It's grab a 6-pack and a beer. There's a tornado coming, or launch, however it goes. But no, and honestly, that's a question I get a lot from especially the younger kids when they come up to my campsite. They look around, and I've got an A-frame canvas tent and a wooden stool that I'm sitting there, and they go, "Do you sleep there?" And I go, "Well, heck yes, I do." "Well, like, do you go home?" I go, "No, this is where I'm camping. This is where I'm living for however long I'm here." And you just, unfortunately, yeah, you run the risk of having some bad weather and some nasty stuff come through, and you just need to be prepared for frost in the morning and severe thunderstorms in the afternoon and 90-degree weather 2 hours later. And it's, again, it's location wise. It's, you get down to the south and it's just blazing heat, and you get up into the north where there's igloos and stuff and it's just ice, or however they live, I don't know. But yeah, it's just being able to have a shelter that will get you out of any kind of inclement weather, not blow away, not fall in on itself if it gets wet, and then dress accordingly too. Is the good part about dressing for that era is the clothes are made for functionality, not for looks. So you are able to wear a good quality pants, shirt, vest, overcoat, oil slicker. And usually you get up in the morning and you dress in layers. You just throw on whatever you think you might need for that day, and make sure you have enough extra pockets to hold all your stuff. And as it gets warm, you take layers off. If it gets cold, you put layers on. Weather comes in, you throw an oil slicker on. You got a good coat, you can throw it over your firewood to keep it dry, your supplies to keep it dry. It's it's being prepared for the worst, hoping for the best, and knowing it's going to be hot and windy.
This is so much more than we ever could have asked for. Really, it truly is. What would you say is your favorite part of reenacting during this time frame and this period?
I never have to grow up. I'm still an 8-year-old kid playing cowboy in the backyard. I just have actual guns, and I have very expensive clothing. No, I mean, it's honestly, removing yourself from, the 8 to 5 grind at work and the streetlights and the cars and the cell phones and the technology and just everything that is, yes, it's handy, yes, it's convenient, but over time, it just kind of starts to wear on you that, I have to do this, and I have to do that, and I have to do this, and I'm, phone's blowing up because somebody's calling you and wants something else. It's being able to step away from that and get out and, enjoy nature. Just sit back over a fire as you're cooking food and look up and not see skyscrapers or streetlights. And honestly, my favorite part is being out of cell phone range.
I can absolutely relate to that, and it's so funny. When I go backpacking, that is the one thing that I look for is I want to camp near water, and I want to not have cell service. Those are my go-tos, 100%. Because otherwise, yeah, you're going to do it. So you're going to look at the phone. You're going to engage. So no, that's awesome. And this has been, for me, this has been like super eye-opening. And I guess I've certainly learned a lot, and I do like sort of the bushcraft-esque nature of it, that you're actually using these skills that we talk about all the time.
Yeah, and really that's the goal of doing this is, these guys, like I said, were the true OG preppers. They were heading out on a 2,500-mile journey, and they could pack a 8 foot long, 4 foot wide wagon, and that had to last them, until they ran out of food and had to figure out how to hunt and trade or barter or, honestly just survive, because, they're out for 8 months and it might be 45 days between, forts or settlements or trading posts.
So if someone wants to get in on this, if somebody says, wow, that guy's story sounds awesome and I want to do that, how would someone, do you want people to get in touch with you, or is there an organization? Is there a national organization that sort of, puts people like you in touch with each other?
I don't, there very well could be a national organization. I'm not associated with anything. Most of what I'm doing, contact wise, is through, state parks, game and parks puts on, especially in my area, a lot of different events for the kids. You get into, historical forts, historical sites. There's usually somebody that heads those up and is in charge of a battlefield site or a fort, or, just something that, could be period correct, and whatever sparks your interest. You got Revolutionary War stuff, you got Civil War stuff, westward expansion, you got the open range cowboy, you've got, you get down in Tombstone, Arizona, and they've got 5 or 6 shootouts a day. And and really the way I got into it is, I said, hey, this looks like a neat event. I planned a weekend or a Saturday, went down to it, watched them do what they did, and just started asking questions and meeting people and shaking hands. And just over time, it's, I kind of found the niche that I wanted to fill in, and met a lot of great guys, and just been in contact. Really, all over the place. I got contacts of people who are doing this that I reach out to, and just shake hands, say hi, ask what they're doing, and if you're interested in it, ask questions. Obviously I've rambled on for almost an hour now, and you get people like this, they're really interested and passionate about it. And yeah, it's, just go out to, wherever, Chamber of Commerce, city organizations, county, any of that kind of, just reach out and say, hey, what do you guys got for living history or historical events or reenactments? And go from there. Just, make your own plan and figure out what you like and what you don't like and what you want to see.
I like it. And Andrew, we truly do appreciate you coming on. This has been amazing. I do have one final question. Do you feel like you're taking the reins and really becoming your own stakeholder?
Absolutely. Every day I wake up.
That's probably the most perfect answer we're ever going to get.
No, right.
And believe it or not, that was not scripted. But yeah, so like I said, if anybody does have questions or follow up, and they want to reach out to me, are you guys good if I give my email?
Yeah, 100%. No, whatever
we'll
you
go
want.
ahead and put it on the website too. So
Yeah, we'll put it on our website and the blog and our and the Facebook page and all that kind of stuff as well. But yeah, go for it. If you're okay with people get in touch with you, go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. If there is any follow up questions, or anybody wants to fact check me or yell at me or whatever, it is theoutlawjackdavis@gmail.com.
Love it. So, Andrew, any questions for us before we let you on with your evening?
Yeah. Do you think with my skill set, I would survive with you guys?
Oh, I don't think we ever said that we were really good at we were going to survive, but I
I
could
thought you guys were the pros in
we
this.
no, we're just two guys that figure out how to do the podcast thing. But honestly, in my world, I'm kind of I'm a bit of a homesteader myself, and I feel very capable in my own little world. And that's why this is so intriguing to me, because like when I am home, when I am, within my fence and my walls, I think I can survive anything. But being out like that, being out in the bush alone, I do not feel like I am very well equipped. I'm like a alternative energy kind of guy. I'm pretty good at management and food storage and things like that. But as far as being out in the bush and sleeping on the ground, no, I wouldn't make it. I don't know.
And see, I'm the exact opposite, because I have been in that situation where I've had to sleep on the ground with nothing, not even a tarp or a blanket or anything, in harsher combat zones where you're just kind of sleeping in a building on the concrete floor. I've got plenty of experience in camping and outdoorsmanship and pioneering, orienteering. You give me a map, a compass, and a scale, and we'll get there. But yeah, I do kind of have that lone wolf experience. It's obviously better in a group, but I think, Andrew, you're right on target. You're the blend between the two of us. You've got skills on both sides. I think you'd make a great addition to the team.
That's right.
Wonderful. And I'll throw it out there. You guys are always welcome here, out in the wild and crazy Wild West frontier. And anytime you guys want to come out, we'll swap stories and drink some cowboy coffee.
No, wait a minute. What's cowboy coffee? Is that a cocktail that I don't know about?
It can be if the sun's gone down. But my version of cowboy coffee is, it's good coffee if you can stand a fork up in it. It's great coffee if the fork dissolves.
Well, as a thank you, Andrew, and as with anybody who sends in anything, share or getting the word out about this podcast, about stakeholder prepping, I'm going to be sending you 2 movie tickets to the movie Homestead, which launches
nice.
on December 20th. It is an Angel Studios movie, so all you've got to do once you get the code is go to angel.com/tickets, find the theater nearest you that's playing, and I'll give you the code. 2 tickets, you and the wife can head out to a movie on us as a thank you for coming on.
Well, thank you guys so much. And I really appreciated coming on and wasting your time and rambling for an hour. So it has been an absolute pleasure to sit and visit with you guys. Love the podcast. Just love the information you guys are putting out there.
Awesome, thanks, man. That honestly means the world to us too, because I would just love to listen to Chris talk all the time, but having you come on and give us your experience, I really appreciate that.
Well, I hope I didn't ruin it for all the other guest speakers, that you guys realize that you're never going to do this again. So thank you again.
Well, definitely tune in next week. We don't have a guest, but we are going to be talking about blizzards, and we're going to get a little bit granular on it. So winter is coming, as Ned Stark would say. So we are going to be talking about blizzards and preparing for it down to some pretty minute details. But again, Andrew, thank you. And as always, remember, you are your own stakeholder.